I've just finished watching the interview of Andrew Tate and Cheyenne Reynolds on Standout TV and decided to make a video on Tate's speech strategies. Here's a little disclaimer before I begin though. Listening to interviews, it might be tempting to take sides and categorize the opinions as good or bad. I personally do it all the time. However, the objective of my video lessons is not choosing and sticking to a side. I respect the opinion and expertise of both of the speakers, and I am not willing to argue with any of the statements. What I will do instead is evaluate the tactics and strategies applied by the speakers that are meant to affect the mindset of either side throughout the arguments. And I'm inviting you to approach the video from the analyst perspective as well and see what speech strategies you can potentially borrow from the speaker in order to facilitate and make your daily communication more effective.
Cheyenne Reynolds, we're gonna do official.
Yeah.
Okay,
Cheyenne Reynolds, we're going official. Tate begins the conversation by verbally evaluating his counterpart. Oh, we're going official now. That might seem just like a comment to support the dialogue. In reality, though, such comments, I call them evaluations. They are never done without a purpose. You throw an evaluation on anything a counterpart says, like a mean to get the counterpart introverted. By commenting on something a person says, you fixate the attention on this phrase, making him or her think there's something wrong about what he or she said. Thus, the counterpart gets distracted by the thoughts and cannot lead the conversation anymore, giving up the control of the interaction.
Because your accent, it's like really different, isn't it?
And now Shine is trying to do the same very thing with Tate. Evaluating him, commenting on his accent, she is trying to get him introverted. Normally, such incentives are meant to make the counterpart want to justify himself or herself. Oh, your accent is very different than that. How are you going to explain that? Were you lying to me? She has just attempted to take control over the conversation and make Tate prove her something. By the way, that's what usually happens on the first date. Two people are trying to shake each other's grounds in order to seem bigger than their counterparts. Let's see how Tate is going to react.
Because your accent, it's like really different, isn't it?
It's pretty mixed up. I'm like a street dog, my dear. I've been here, I've been there. Half American, half English.
Here we see that Tate doesn't get led on by the provocations and not trying to prove the counterpart anything. On the contrary, he uses exaggeration. Because your accent is very different than that. Yeah, I'm a stray dog, been there, been here. He's not giving up control. And on top of that, he is trying to put the counterpart down, saying, my dear. It is very important to notice how a counterpart addresses you. Such phrases as my dear, sweetie, baby, at first glance come as an expression of care for the person. But their main function is to let your vigilance down. You're more likely to give in to someone if you assume the person is caring for you.
I'm a shoe salesman. I sell shoes, socks, shoe accessories, polish, etc., etc.
Yeah.
We all know Andrew Tate has a lot to brag about. Then why tell a girl he sells shoes? So, like I've stressed on it in my previous lessons, any conversation is like a fight for control and initiative. There's always a leader and there's always someone following in any interaction. Andrew Tate right now is being asked questions which by default mean he is in the position of a follower. In an attempt to make an impression on this woman and tell her about his achievements, money, popularity, he would allow her to keep him in the position of a follower because he would be the one following her comments in the form of questions. Impress me, Andrew Tate. Tell me about yourself. Oh, I sell shoes. It means, no, I'm not going to sell myself to you. I only sell shoes.
So tell me a bit about you, Andrew.
I'm not comfortable opening up too much.
Again, Tate is denying to follow in a conversation. The question, tell me a bit about you, by default means impress me, prove yourself. That is an attempt to take control over a counterpart from the buyer's position. The ones who will follow such an incentive will be objectified because you allow to be objectified by following the comments of the counterpart. And Tate's answer, I'm not comfortable opening up too much, doesn't essentially mean he is not comfortable opening up. The primary message here is no, I am not following your commands and I'm not selling myself to you.
What kind of man are you?
What's the spectrum? I need you to quantify it for me.
It might be useful to remember if you don't want to give on control in a conversation and allow the counterpart to lead you. Don't answer the question right after it's been asked. A question is always initiative of the leader. Answer is the act of submission in a way. Even if you don't want to be on top throughout the conversation, it is still very important to remember about the balance, because you cannot keep the position of an obedient follower and expect respect from the counterparts. If you're willing to follow, though, it might be important to make the counterpart follow back first. That's what Andrew Tate just did. He didn't rush to answer the question, "What kind of man are you?" He, at first, asked a question back and took the leading position away from Cheyenne. What's the spectrum?
1,000 years of human evolution in which a female had to be loyal to one man, so we knew exactly who the father was. If a man has multiple partners, you know who the mother is, you know who the father is. If a woman has multiple partners, nobody knows who the dad is, nobody wants to look after the kid, and a woman with a child.
If you deal with a fast speaker, it is a good time to get cautious. Fast speech is meant to let down your vigilance. Normally, when we hear someone speaking, we tend to analyze what the person is saying and whether it makes sense. Do the statements have any objective background? Is the source reliable? However, when a person speaks fast, he doesn't allow analysis to go through because you're simply not capable of thinking this fast. The main objective of any fast speaker is to not let you form any objections. The primary goal is to make you agree with whatever statements he or she is trying to preach. Andrew Tate is extremely good at delivering and convincing, and if you want to master persuasion, he would be a great teacher.
Besides you and the police, I don't often answer questions.
A good trick to lead on the counterpart is to pretend to follow. Again, Tate didn't rush to follow a counterpart's initiative in the form of question and answer it right away. He at first emphasized on his willingness to answer in order to raise its value. He's saying, look, I'm following you only because you're special. I'm not usually answering questions, but you're special. Making someone feel special is a sure way of taking control over their emotions. Everyone likes to feel special, and after receiving such an incentive, they will try hard not to disappoint you.
A woman won't do that. So don't lie to me and pretend. No, you won't. Any woman who will sit here and say, I can f dudes and all.
Raising your voice is a cave method of persuasion, and by no means will it work if you want to convince well-educated communicators. However, if you talk mass media and newbies in communication, being louder than the counterpart does make one look more assertive, and it's not the first time Andrew Tate is demonstrating it.
I understand your point. However, you're wrong.
Presenting a counter-argument in a conversation, it is important to allow the counterpart's opinion to exist. Doing so, you're more likely to incline the counterpart and the audience to your opinion. And here's how it works. Strictly denying the counterpart's point of view, you're getting them emotional and protective, stimulating them to fight with you and your opinion. While when you allow them to keep their opinion and at the same time presenting yours, you're keeping them calm and inviting them to listen as if you're opening their ears for whatever you're preaching. Here, Andrew Tate made it nasty. He put the "you are wrong" after giving a hope of understanding. And that would be more productive if he didn't stress the "you are wrong." However, he wouldn't be Andrew Tate if he did so.
She thinks I'm arrogant. I'm being arrogant on purpose. I must admit, annoying her is kind of fun.
And that's what happens when the counterpart emotionally reacts to the statements of a speaker. Remember, the goal of any provocative statement is the emotional reaction of the listener. If you do react and start arguing, you already are in the follower's position. And the longer you stay in this position, the less respect you can expect from the provocateur.
But that's what you need to
No,
understand.
you will not.
Listen,
God will frown upon you. You can't do that.
And you.
What do you mean, and me? It doesn't say in the Bible I can't do that.
Trying to change a provocateur's mind will only stimulate him to push more. Remember, the objective of any provocateur is to provoke. Reasoning with him is impossible. He's not there to talk. He's not there to listen. He's there to convince others that he's right, regardless of whether he actually makes sense. And the only way to win respect of such a person and actually make him listen is not to react. Keep calm and remember that anything a person is saying has absolutely nothing to do with reality, but it's rather the outcome of the information he or she has been consuming throughout his life. which is highly dependent also on the reaction of the audience. If you react to whatever the provocateur is saying, you are stimulating.
Every man knows it and every woman knows it. Women should not do that. And
one of the most favorite tricks of all the public opinion manipulators is generalization. Phrases that include each, every, everyone, everything are meant to prevent you from thinking critically and blindly agree with whatever goes after everyone knows.
You're very, very smart.
Thank you.
You are. But you're doing what most females do, and you're conflating issues.
You're very, very smart, but what you do is the most common mistake that all females do. Here, Tate is showing another good trick to knock out the reasoning of the counterpart. He compliments what Cheyenne says, calling her smart, and then immediately gets on trying to change her point of view. And the key here is not only the attempt to appeal emotionally. Like I said previously, before presenting your counter-argument, it's very important to make sure your counterpart is actually listening instead of fighting with you. So allowing their opinion to exist is critical. Calling her smart, he does so. However, the key in this saying is the position. Tate's goal within an argument is not essentially being objective and operating facts. His goal is to win the argument and keep control of the conversation so that his words are more valid when compared to the counterpart. Now, how does he keep the control of the position? He throws positive evaluations, and any evaluation, be that calling someone loud or stinky, smart or arrogant, are done from the buyer's position of the teacher, position of the leader. To be even more precise, evaluations are given from top to the bottom for the illustration. And when something is said from top to the bottom, it doesn't really matter who the person is and what the person is saying. He will sound more valid than the counterpart simply because he is choosing to address from this position. From now on, the interview becomes more and more repetitive, and I don't see a point in diving in the depth of the beliefs and opinions of the speakers. Like I said before, we're not analyzing Andrew Tate's beliefs, but we are analyzing the way Andrew Tate is convincing others to adopt his beliefs, because he is definitely someone who knows how to do it. Now, on one hand, we analyzed an interview of two public speakers. On the other hand, we analyzed speech manipulations which you might encounter in your everyday conversations. On this note, let me remind you that we people operate in a world based and highly dependent on communications between one another. Therefore, awareness of how words are used to achieve a certain reaction might be extremely useful. So I'm inviting you to consider what of the previously discussed tactics were the most commonly used by you or your close ones in your daily discussions, and what tactics might be good for you to adopt and for what purposes. I personally took a note of a couple, and with gratitude to everyone involved in the production, I am finishing today's session. Thank you for the attention and talk to you later.